Mark Carney's power play. Freshly elected PM drives surprise early bid for 2030 re-election. As Canada prepares for its next election cycle, Prime Minister Mark Carney's power play is already in full swing. Fresh off his 2025 victory, he's wasting no time, driving a surprise early bid for re-election in 2030, signaling ambition and a calculated strategy to consolidate power. His focus is squarely on the moderate swing voters who helped propel him to a narrow victory just months ago. Carney's approach, however, is raising eyebrows. It is clear that the challenges his administration faces have not deterred him. Rather, these difficulties are fueling a calculated response designed to cement his political future. But in a rapidly changing political landscape, will this early power play succeed, or is Carney's bid for re-election destined to fizzle out? One of Carney's key strategies revolves around his handling of immigration policy. Shortly after taking office, he proposed a cap on the number of temporary foreign workers and international students, aiming for a maximum of 5% of the population by the end of 2027. This proposal is a stark shift from his predecessors, aligning more closely with the moderate approach of former Prime Minister Stephen Harper. The idea is to appeal to voters who feel that the current levels of immigration are unsustainable, especially in light of the increasing strains on Canadian infrastructure, public services, and the housing market. Carney's proposed policy has already sparked a significant debate. Critics, particularly from immigrant advocacy groups and some within the business community, argue that the cap would hurt Canada's economic recovery and its reputation as an international hub for talent. Furthermore, many are questioning the timeline, with 2027 seeming far too distant to implement meaningful change in such a critical area. Given that Canada currently welcomes approximately 400,000 new permanent residents each year, some argue that Carney's policy is less a reflection of a genuine solution to demographic pressures and more a calculated attempt to win the support of concerned voters without rocking the boat too soon. Indeed, this move has raised suspicions that Carney's delay in implementing these immigration reforms aligns directly with his 2030 re-election strategy. By making bold promises now and setting the changes for the far-off future, Carney may be looking to placate the electorate without having to deal with the immediate backlash that such a significant policy shift would bring. Whether this strategy will resonate with voters in the long term remains to be seen. For now, it is clear that Carney is playing the long game. Beyond immigration, Carney's approach to energy policy is another significant component of his early re-election push. In an effort to present himself as a moderate voice on environmental issues, Carney has scrapped the controversial consumer carbon tax that had been implemented by the previous administration. This decision was seen by many as a necessary step to win back disillusioned voters, particularly in the oil-producing provinces like Alberta, where the carbon tax was deeply unpopular. However, Carney's replacement of the consumer carbon tax with a more aggressive industrial carbon tax could have unforeseen consequences. His proposed cap-and-trade system for the oil and gas sector has raised alarms among industry leaders and experts who warn that these measures could make Canadian industries less competitive in a global market where most major economies do not impose similar restrictions. Critics argue that while Carney's policies may appear progressive, they could inadvertently burden local businesses, consumers, and workers who depend on resource extraction for their livelihoods. Carney is treading a fine line, balancing the demands of environmental activists with the economic realities facing Canadians in resource-dependent provinces. What is clear is that Carney is positioning himself as a leader who is willing to make tough choices, at least on paper. Whether those choices will actually benefit Canadians or serve to alienate key voter groups will be the determining factor as he heads into his first re-election campaign. The question on many minds is whether his environmental policies are motivated by genuine concern for the climate or by political expediency, designed to capture the centrist vote without committing to too much change in the short term. On the economic front, Carney is seeking to position himself as a fiscal conservative, claiming to be cleaning up the mess left by the previous Liberal government. His predecessor, Justin Trudeau, faced heavy criticism for a record $62 billion deficit, but Carney's own fiscal plans appear to be just as ambitious, if not more so. While Trudeau's deficit spending was tied to pandemic recovery efforts, Carney's projected deficit is set to reach at least $86 billion, a figure that does not take into account any new spending initiatives. Carney has promised to trim $23 billion from the federal budget by cutting duplicate programs. However, there is skepticism among economists and voters alike about whether this goal is realistic. Critics argue that such significant savings might be difficult to achieve without slashing services that Canadians rely on. Moreover, Carney's fiscal projections have raised questions about the overall direction of his economic policies, with many asking whether his goal of deficit reduction is primarily designed to bolster his re-election prospects rather than address the country's long-term financial challenges. Despite his ambitious claims, voters will likely scrutinize the details of his fiscal policies more closely as the election approaches. While Carney has positioned himself as a leader who is capable of tackling Canada's economic issues, it remains to be seen whether he can back up his claims with concrete action. The credibility of his economic policies will be a central issue in the upcoming election, particularly given the growing public dissatisfaction with the status quo. Opposition leader Pierre Poilievre and the Conservative Party are closely monitoring Carney's every move. Poilievre has been outspoken in his criticism of Carney's handling of key issues, including immigration, the economy, and national security. He has positioned himself as the clear alternative to Carney's leadership, offering a vision of lower taxes, a simpler immigration system, and a stronger commitment to traditional Canadian values. The Conservatives have made significant strides in traditionally Liberal and NDP ridings, particularly in light of voter dissatisfaction with Carney's handling of the country's most pressing issues. Poilievre's message resonates with voters who feel left behind by Carney's policies and his perceived elite status. The contrast between Carney's moderate, technocratic approach and Poilievre's populist, down-to-earth rhetoric is stark, and it will be a central theme of the 2026 election. Carney's path to leadership has been anything but conventional. His rise from the finance world to prime minister, after the resignation of Justin Trudeau, has added a layer of intrigue to his campaign. Although he is widely regarded as a seasoned technocrat with experience at the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England, his lack of political experience has raised doubts among some voters. Carney's early re-election push reflects a confidence in his ability to navigate the political landscape, but his critics contend that he is more concerned with securing his political future than with addressing the concerns of ordinary Canadians. The dynamics within the Liberal Party could also play a significant role in shaping Carney's re-election bid. The party is far from unified, and internal factions are likely to cause problems for Carney as he attempts to hold together a diverse coalition. His moderate policies may alienate the party's progressive base, while his attempts to appease centrist voters may be seen as insufficient by those on the left. As Carney looks toward the 2030 election, the stakes could not be higher. His ability to navigate the complex web of political pressures, domestic issues, and international challenges will determine whether his re-election strategy succeeds or falters. Voters are already questioning whether Carney's early bid for re-election reflects a genuine commitment to improving the country or merely a political calculation designed to keep him in power. In conclusion, Mark Carney's early re-election strategy is a multifaceted approach aimed at solidifying his political future. Whether or not this approach will resonate with voters remains uncertain, but one thing is clear: Carney's power play has put him at the center of Canadian politics, and he is positioning himself for a battle that will shape the future of the country for years to come. Whether he can manage the expectations of swing voters, address the concerns of opposition parties, and maintain unity within his own party will be the key to his success in the coming years. The next few months will be pivotal as Carney faces increasing pressure to prove that his vision for Canada is one that will inspire voters and carry him to victory in 2030.